How's it going, guys? My name's Shane, and welcome back to the Horror Basement. Better late than never, we are here to finally finish the Firefly trilogy and talk about Three from Hell, the newest movie from director Rob Zombie. So this movie, within the opening credits, picks up where the previous movie, The Devil's Rejects, left off. And it states that in the big shootout that the Firefly family had with the cops at the end of The Devil's Rejects, they all survived despite having like 20 bullet wounds apiece. And once the plot of the movie proper picks up, they have been in prison for the last 15 years after all being convicted of multiple murders, including but not limited to the ones that we've seen in those two previous movies. So unfortunately, this is one of the last movies that Sid Haig ever took part in. And because, I guess, his health was failing towards the end of his life, he really only has a brief cameo in the beginning where he gets to do his Captain Spaulding shtick and cuss out some reporters, and then it's said, that he was executed via lethal injection. So the plot of the movie proper kicks in when Otis Driftwood, played by Bill Moseley, with the help of the half-brother that is introduced in this movie, he manages to escape from prison after murdering Danny Trejo's character, who was one of the thugs that was trying to chase him down in the last movie. Now, I mentioned the new half-brother that gets introduced because, of course, with Captain Spaulding out of the picture and the title being Three from Hell, you kind of need a third character to go along with Otis and Baby. And that would be Captain Spaulding's... another one of Captain Spaulding's children, who is the half-brother of Baby and Otis. And his name is Winslow F. Coltrane, but he goes by the moniker the Midnight Wolfman. And he is played by Richard Brake, who played Doomhead in the Rob Zombie movie 31, which I actually reviewed on the channel and is in the Rob Zombie playlist where this video will be. And I really like his addition to the group. As the movie started, I kind of had my doubts is this going to be as good without Sid Haig being one of the main characters? But Richard Brake does a really good job, and I like the banter between him and Bill Moseley's character Otis, because they're riffing and they're talking about titties and they're stabbing people to death in the woods, and it's a good time. But there is this kind of tension between the two of them where Wolfman is trying to assert his dominance over the group, because Otis sees himself, of course, as the person that's in charge of everything, and he makes the plans. So there's kind of a back and forth between the two about who's really in charge. But, of course, at the end of the day, that really doesn't go anywhere plot-wise, because the gang, as you will, remains cohesive. But they have a plan to bust Baby, the third member of the trio, out of lady prison, where Sherry Moon Zombie's character, Baby, had been busy for the last 15 years, getting a bunch of tattoos and going even more crazy than she was in the last two movies. And their Baby gets her own scenes to where she's locked up and one of the guards kind of lock her in the basement with these two real big, intimidating looking prisoner chicks, and the guard doesn't like her, so she just kind of walks off and expects that these two are gonna, kill Baby or inflict some sort of major bodily harm on her. But then the guard gets back, and Baby has murdered them both and like carved her name into their foreheads. And anyway, the plan from Wolfman and Otis is to actually go to the house of the warden, and they do that and tie up, essentially hold hostage, him, the warden, his wife, and their two like dinner guests. Um, and their idea is to send the warden in to get a guard uniform, get Baby into his office, and then walk out with Baby dressed as one of the security guards, or the prison guards, and then deliver them back to the house where, then Otis will, release the family and they'll be on their merry way. But in the meantime, while they're working out this plan, they actually get visited. A clown shows up for some reason, and it's a clown that's played by Clint Howard. And I guess, since Sid Haig was no longer available, Rob Zombie just has to have a clown in every movie, apparently. At least, in recent memory. So the problem with Clint Howard's character is that he's a really shitty clown, and, Otis makes him a deal that if he can make them laugh, then he's free to go, but otherwise they're going to blow his fucking brains out. And, of course, he fails to manage and gets killed. So it was a cool little cameo from Clint Howard. But in time, the warden does go and free Baby from prison. And excuse me, I sat down in the chair and there were legitimately cobwebs like floating around my head. Like, I do actually film this in a basement, in case you were wondering. So he frees Baby and takes her back to his house in hopes to get him and his guests all freed. But of course that's not what happens, and the gang, having now been reunited, the three from hell, go on a rampage. They kill both of the guests, or they kill the one male dinner guest and the warden's wife, and then Baby has this really good chase scene with the female dinner guest who is who's naked the entire time and is running away from Baby, who is brandishing a knife. And me and the wife who were watching it, just so happened to pause the movie at that time. Like, I had to get a drink or something, because it's probably the halfway point of the movie, roughly. And, we were kind of looking at the chase scene on the screen as like, are her boobs real or not? And once we unpaused it and watched more of the chase scene, we decided that, they probably are real, just, pretty perky set for an actress of that age, because she appeared to be in maybe like her mid-30s. So kudos to that woman and her breasts. But after all the killing is finished, the gang decide to get out of town, and they go to a hotel room where Baby manages to kill another person while Wolfman and Otis just kind of sit in the hotel room and talk about, like, what's the plan. And I noticed there's a couple scenes in this where there are old movies playing in the background, and of course we all know that Rob Zombie is like a major cinephile. And I made note of it because I thought I recognized it. The movie they're watching while they're in the hotel is actually The Brain That Wouldn't Die, which is one of the movies that I covered here on the Classic Horror Review series. You can check out that playlist as well. And I believe it's Baby that has the idea of like, hey, we're all wanted criminals. We're still in Texas. Why don't we go to Mexico? And I kind of thought, like, well, yeah, no shit. Why wasn't that the plan from the get-go? But apparently that had not crossed Otis, the mastermind's mind to just like hop across the border and live out the rest of their lives in Mexico. So they do that. They drive their van down into Mexico and get to this little like border town where this skinny guy named Carlos basically runs the town. Owns the bar, owns the hotel. He's the self-appointed mayor, owner of the city, whatever. And he allows them to stay in the hotel. But in the meantime, he actually calls up the son of Danny Trejo's character, who, my apologies, I don't remember what his character's name was in the Devil's Rejects, because him and Diamond Dallas Page, the wrestler, were kind of like the hired goons of the sheriff. But I don't remember his name, and I'm not going to go dig through the notes from that movie. But anyway, Danny Trejo's son, he is of course pissed off because Otis murdered his fucking father with a shovel before he escaped. So Carlos rats them out, and for the sum of 10 grand, he's going to allow Danny Trejo's son and his hit squad to come into the little village and murder the three. And the climax of this movie, I think it was probably the most entertaining part of the movie, because the hit squad rolls up in these like black SUV type things, and they all get out and they're brandishing like machine guns, and they all have lucha masks on. Oh yeah, and the name of the hit squad is the Black Satans. So Los Satans Negros are there to take out Otis, Wolfman, and Baby. And despite having big machine guns and really cool lucha masks, they are probably the shittiest hit squad I've ever seen in a movie. Like I said, they're brandishing like fully automatic rifles, and I think Otis has a pistol, Wolfman has a shotgun, and Baby is using a fucking Native American bow and arrow she stole from the warden's house. And they manage to take out like 6 or 7. And pretty much they take out the entire hit squad before they're finally captured. And of course, instead of just killing them all right away, Danny Trejo's son decides to let Otis get in a machete fight with one of the last goons he has surviving. And while he's distracted with that, Baby and Wolfman manage to escape and kill the rest of his goons. And the movie ends with them putting Danny Trejo's son in one of the caskets he had brought to put them in, and lighting him on fire while he's still alive, and then walking off and then driving off into the sunset. So overall, I really liked this movie. I was concerned going in that how the movie would do without Sid Haig as the other like anchor point, because throughout the entire trilogy, I thought that Bill Moseley's character of Otis and Captain Spaulding were like the main characters. They were like the anchor points of the series. But I really like the addition of Richard Brake's character. I think he meshes well with Bill and Sherry's performances, and really enjoyable dynamic between the three of them. And also, speaking of in previous videos, because all of the Rob Zombie movies I've covered thus far have included Sherry Moon Zombie in some capacity. And in the previous videos, I've kind of poo-pooed her acting ability or her involvement. in the first video where I covered both House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, I read a quote from my wife who said, I fucking hate Sherry Moon Zombie, put that in your fucking video. And after this, even she was like, yeah, that was really enjoyable. I liked that. It's gotten a lot better. So I think the past 15 years or so since the series started, Sherry Moon Zombie has really honed her acting chops. And I think she, along with Richard Brake and Bill Moseley, gave a really enjoyable performance and made this movie very interesting. Now, so overall, I would recommend the movie. I'd definitely say if you're a fan of Rob Zombie's work, this movie is just like a warm hug from an old friend. Like it's very Rob Zombie from top to bottom, and if you're into that, then you'll like this. So I would definitely recommend going and seeing it. Now, a kind of side note or a departure from the main point. After the first movie in the series, House of a Thousand Corpses, I wouldn't really call the two movies that followed, this one, Three from Hell, and Devil's Rejects, I wouldn't call them horror movies. Now, House of a Thousand Corpses seemed almost like Rob Zombie's homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the kind of like 70s exploitation horror. Whereas Devil's Rejects and then this one kind of went more to the exploitation side, and then kind of this one at the end seemed like an out-and-out like action movie. But overall, it was still really good. I would recommend this one. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.